Hello. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today as we partner with the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Administration, and our City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities to present this overview of women-owned small businesses, women-owned and economically disadvantaged women-owned small business certification program. So welcome. We're kind of going to go in this order with Benedict College. I'm going to give you a brief overview about Benedict College Women's Business Center for those who don't know about it. Then we'll hear from the Aisha Driggers with the City of Columbia. Angela Brewer is going to bring some great information from the Small Business Administration. And then we will hear from Charmaine Manning with the United States Women's Chamber of Commerce. But thank you so much. Thank you all so much for supporting Benedict College Women's Business Center. And most of all, for taking time out of your schedules today to share with us. Throughout today's webinar, you can feel free to ask questions or leave comments in the chat box, and we'll try to get to those at the end of each presenter's presentation. Please mute your mics so we can block out any background noise. And we will be recording today's presentation, and we will share the PowerPoint. So just to give you a little, and can everybody see the screen okay? Yep, okay, good. Just to give you a little overview real quickly about the Benedict College Women's Business Center, the purpose of the center, and that is to provide equal opportunities to minority women entrepreneurs. And we do that by stimulating growth and development, bridging disparities, and equalizing the playing field across all sectors. We are a newly designated Women's Business Center. We are happy about that. We are funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration. And we're proud to say we are the only federally funded HBCU in the nation with statewide coverage operating a WBC, and one of 3 HBCUs in the country that operate a federally funded WBC. We are an economic development organization, part of a nationwide community, business, and economic development programs. We have a group of dynamic and great professional trained business advisors. You'll hear about them a little bit later. But the mission of the WBC is to support economic prosperity for women, strengthen communities through entrepreneurial and financial education services that create and grow sustainable jobs and businesses across South Carolina. To kind of summarize the vision of the WBC, our vision is to create a gateway out of poverty for socially and economically disadvantaged women entrepreneurs by starting, growing, and expanding their businesses. We want to make sure that our woman-owned businesses and small businesses, they are empowered with the tools that they need to start their business, grow their business. We want to promote economic sufficiency, build assets, and improve the lives of those individuals and the families in our community and across South Carolina. How do we do that? How do we carry out the mission? By providing one-on-one private consulting sessions at no cost, by providing educational workshops and seminars, referrals, and joint services with our service providers. We have a group of, a great group of business development and resource providers across South Carolina who share our passion and have stepped up. The village has stepped up to make sure that you have the information, you have the tools, and the training needed to do to carry out and to bring that vision to fruition in your business. So who do we serve? We serve startup businesses as well as existing businesses, for-profit organizations, women, particularly minority women, that historically experience more social and economic disparities than their counterparts. We serve all businesses, but the focus is on our women-owned businesses, particularly minority women of color. We provide services to all business industry segments and small businesses across South Carolina. This is a snapshot of the staff. I serve Cheryl Sally here as as the director for the WBC, and we have a great group of ladies. I've been working with and for small and minority businesses since '86, and as a consultant since '94. I've owned several businesses over the years, over the 30-year span, and I'm dating myself, but that's okay. And so have the ladies here. All of the ladies on the staff, they are current business owners and professional advisors, academic providers. So we're so glad to have them. I think all of them may be on the call as well. And we also have technical assistance consultants who have provided proposals and will be bringing a lot of workshops and trainings for you all. The BCWBC slogan, it is our pledge to work side by side with the women entrepreneurs and local businesses to retain and build industry and commerce, create jobs, and improve the economic opportunities for all communities. This is just a little snapshot of the services that we offer at the WBC: business planning and development, resiliency and disaster recovery planning, financial management. I am always on the platform, and you will hear my coworkers and colleagues and former colleagues. I am a believer and have seen over the years, over the 30 years, that when I trace back the hiccups that businesses have, or the failures, I can always trace it back to the lack of planning and having that plan in writing. Obviously the access to capital, but more importantly, having the business systems in place and building the solid foundation for your business, all right? So you can't build a house on a shaky foundation, because when the storm comes, the strong storm comes, that house is going to fall down. So the same thing with your business. And we are seeing it now, 7 months into this pandemic, where businesses are not standing. They're not standing strong. So what we want to do is to equip you as best we can for not just now, but to be a strong, healthy business, to experience longevity in your business and positive net profits. So a lot of businesses over the 7, I'm not going to talk too long because we got to get on get on with the program. But what we've seen, a lot of businesses fail or could not access the grant programs, the loan programs, because they didn't have the financial infrastructure in place. They did not have the financial systems in place, or were not educated about the business systems. So, because we have a skill, we have a passion to run our business, to open businesses and to run our business. But we need to combine that skill and that passion with the education and the knowledge of business systems, business management. So I'm gonna get off of that. Stay tuned, connect with us, and we'll continue to share all that information and provide the one-on-one consulting. Upcoming workshops. From now to the end of the year, we have planned to do several workshops. One, disaster recovery and resiliency planning with our very own Dr. Sion Smith, who's the Chief of Staff at Benedict. She has a wealth of knowledge. She has served around the country on the ground with addressing and managing and helping individuals and businesses recover from disasters, working alongside with FEMA. Also business planning and marketing essentials. We'll have that mid next month. Money Smart series, everything we're launching a series to talk about everything that can be talked about as it relates to financial management and those systems. We're happy about a partnership that we have with Next and Pruitt Law Firm. They are going to provide business guidance and business law services to the clients of the WBC at no cost. So to make sure that your I's are dotted and the T's are crossed as it relates to business law and legal. Same thing with Doug Lineberry, protecting business secrets, dealing with patents and trademarks and copyrights and so on and so forth. QuickBooks, we want to get that launched. It's really critical now, and I'm going to critical now as we apply for some of the lending opportunities that are coming out with the through the city of Columbia, and that's going to be a segue into with the city, and Aisha Drigger is going to talk a little bit about that. But as some of you may know, I think November 1st is the deadline to apply for the South Carolina grant opportunities. So there's a lot of things coming up, and we want just to be able to provide those tools and those services so that our business owners will be ready. They'll be ready at all times. So with that, I am going to stop. We're going to hear next from Aisha Driggers with the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, and then we will hear from Angela Brewer with the Small Business Administration, and then from Charmaine Manning with the United States Women's Chamber of Commerce to talk about the Women-Owned Small Business and Economically Disadvantaged Women-Owned Small Business Certification. Thank you all again for joining us. Thank you so much for coming out today and sharing with us. I'm going to turn it over to you, Aisha.
Okay. Are you going to do the slides, Cheryl?
You want me to present them?
Or I can, whatever is good.
Yeah, you can. If you have them, you can share your screen.
Okay, I'll do that. Did you share that? Okay.
Can everyone see Aisha's screen?
Okay, good deal. Thank you so much, Cheryl. I don't know how I got chosen to go right after you, but that was wonderful. Your passion to help our small business is just contagious, and the City of Columbia is excited to be a partner with not only the Women's Business Center, but SBA. So like Cheryl said, my name is Aisha Driggers. I'm the Program Administrator in the Office of Business Opportunities, and I'm here on behalf of our office and our director, Miss Melissa Lindler. And I just want to talk briefly about some of the services that we provide, not only to City of Columbia businesses, but businesses throughout the area. We do have our commercial lending, and it is a financial assistance program available to startups and existing businesses to help with growth, expansion, retention, and the creation of new jobs, and also assistance in the redevelopment of commercial corridors. That funding is specifically if you are located within the City of Columbia, but we encourage anyone who needs to know about available funding to contact our office, and we will make sure we get you in contact with someone who may have funding if you're not eligible for our funding. We also have our contractor and supplier diversity area. It offers training and support for city initiatives, and it's designed to increase our local contractors' capacity to compete for government contracts and other procurement opportunities. And we do that through various programs that we offer, and they include the Subcontractor Outreach Program, our Mentor Protege Program, our Local Business Enterprise Preference Policy, and our Columbia Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. It's just an opportunity for businesses to get contracts with the City of Columbia through these various programs. The area I'm responsible for is our Technical Assistance, Education, and Advocacy. It's our business development assistance, and we also offer courses for startups and existing businesses looking to grow and expand. Some of the topics for our trainings include marketing, the use of social media, business plan development, finances, legal issues, and more. Up until this year, they were face-to-face trainings, but of course with this year in COVID, we've offered them as webinars, and that's been pretty successful. I think it's given us an opportunity to broaden our audience to areas that may not be able to physically come into those webinars. So those have been successful, and we look forward to continuing those trainings. I wanted to talk specifically about our Resilient Columbia CARES Act loan fund. That funding is available now, and it's provided to offer financing options to small businesses in an effort to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the economic injury attributed to coronavirus. These funds are the second economic development administrative funds that we've received at the City of Columbia. We received about $2.9 million in total, and we'll be able to loan out about $2.7 million of that funding. The funds are being used to finance small businesses located within the corporate limits of the City of Columbia. And we do have a link on our website where you can put your business location to see if you are located within the City of Columbia limits. Under this funding, business owners can apply for a loan ranging from $10,000 to $200,000, depending on their needs. And these loans will be at a 0% interest the first year of repayment and 2.5% fixed for the remaining of the loan term. So that's really a great interest rate. And there's no prepayment penalty. So if you receive the loan and pay it off within the first year, you would pay no interest on that funding. So I just want to talk about a little bit about the eligible uses. You can use it for the purpose of financing, building construction, conversions, expansions, acquisition of land, buildings, machinery equipment, crisis management plans, COVID testing, employee safety training, inventory purchases. It's just a wide variety of eligible uses for those funds. And we're happy to discuss if there's something that's not on this list and it's something that you think your company may need, just call our office and we'll be able to walk you through that process. We do have provided our loan officer information. Brett Whiting's information is on here, as well as my information. And like I said, if there's any questions about applying for this funding, please let us know. We'll be happy to discuss that with you. And if like I said, if you're not eligible for our funding and you just want to know what other resources are out there, please contact us at these email addresses. We also provide a newsletter in our office, and we provide funding or information about funding and webinars throughout the state. So I encourage anyone who's not receiving that newsletter to please send me an email and request that. and I'll make sure to add you on the list for those in the future. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you so much, Aisha. You're up, Miss Angela. We're bringing Angela Brewer with the Small Business Administration. She's our business development, and I'll let her introduce herself, but she's also the district office technical representative for the WBC. So thank you so much, Angela, for all you do and for helping us to ramp up smoothly and provide these services. The Zoom podium is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all see my slides?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. As she stated, my name is Angela Brewer, and I am the Business Opportunity Specialist for the South Carolina District Office of SBA. My role is to talk about or market the SBA programs. So with that said, SBA federal contracting programs, we have 4 preferential programs that we have with SBA. And each year the federal government spends somewhere close to, if not more, than trillions of dollars every year. And 23% of that $1 trillion cap that they have must go to small business. But in order to go to small business, you have to fall into several of these categories. You have to be, we have the woman-owned, we have the 8A or the services they were veteran, we have the Hub Zone program, and we have Hub Zone program. So, but then that only adds up to 16%. The other 7% goes to just small business. I'm not going to go into detail about how to be certified in these programs. Today, we'll hear about the woman-owned small business certification, but we will present later on about the other programs. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me with questions on how to get certified to be a part of the other programs. The woman-owned, the 8A, and the Hub Zone programs, there is a certification and application process. So if you are interested in those programs, you will have to actually apply to be part of that program. And for SBA, all of our business or all the federal contracting is for-profit business, and you have to be small. A lot of people think when you're looking at small businesses, you're looking at maybe the mom and pop store, the little corner stores. But when you're looking at small business, sometimes it goes into the millions of dollars. Like take for instance, 236220, if you do construction, that cap for being a small business is $39.5 million. So we look at what your industry is, and we determine your NAICS code, which determines your NAICS code, and we determine if you're a small business based on your NAICS code. Are you ready, or are you eligible to do business with the federal government? Do the federal government buy what you're selling? That's the main thing, because Fort Jackson is one of the federal agencies that's here in the Columbia area, and you need to know what the federal agency is buying, because if you go try to sell something that the federal government is not buying, that you are wasting I hate to use that word, but you are wasting your time as well as theirs. So you need to know what is the federal government's buying, and we have several we have a couple of ways to determine if federal government is buying what you're selling. We have 2 websites, which I'll show you on the next slide. Do you have what it takes to do federal contracting? Are you sustaining right now? If you are sustaining right now in what you're doing, you might be able to sustain in the federal government world, because when doing work with the federal government, you don't get paid up front. You get paid after you invoice, after a certain time frame, after you complete a certain step in the project. So you can't go out there and try to think you're gonna get $1 million contract, you'll get the $1 million up front. You have to, they get paid in stages. So look at your revenue, what you're doing, and make sure that you are able to sustain before you go after contracts. Do you know where to find contracting opportunities? We have a new website. It used to be FBO, I'm sorry. It's been a while. It used to be FBO. Now we have beta.sam.gov. Yeah, beta.sam.gov. I've been on the coronavirus for the past 6 months, so I'm just getting back into this. So please forgive me. I'm just getting back and doing my work, my job, what I love to do. And in order to do federal contract, you have to be registered in SAM. Some of you might have heard of SAM, others may not. But in order to do federal contract work, you must be registered in SAM, and you do not have to be part of those 4 preferential programs that I talked about, the Woman-Owned, Service Baby, Veteran Hub Zone, 8A. But you must be registered in SAM in order to do work with the federal government. And in order to do work with the federal government, to be registered in SAM, that is, you must have a DUNS number, and you must have a tax ID number. And one of the things they're going to ask you on the second page, do you have a cage code? You don't just check no. Those who are interested in going into registering SAM, just check no. They will assign you a cage code. And these are resources, forgive me, Cheryl. These are resources. You didn't tell me yesterday I left you all's logo off. But these are some resources here that can assist you with getting registered for federal contracting, can help you find opportunities, can help you with business plan or capability statements that you would need in order to work with the federal government, things that they ask for. You have the business opportunity specialist, which is myself, and there's 2 others in our office that does the same thing that I do. We have PCRs. We don't have any in South Carolina, but we have some that service our region. We have there in Georgia. We don't have a PTAC, which is a procurement technical assistance here in Columbia anymore, but we still have one in Charleston. But we here in the district office in Columbia, we can answer just about any question. If we can't, we'll send it to someone that can. Like I stated, we have the beta.sam and we have the FPD on there, FPDS, but FPDS has gone away and is now part of beta.sam.gov. We have SAM and we have DSBS. And I spoke earlier about opportunities and I'm trying to do market research to see who's buying what the government is buying. We had FPDS. Now we have USA Spending. If you use USA Spending and you put your NAICS code in there, it can tell you what federal agency is buying what it is that you do. Cheryl only gave me 2 minutes, so I think I got in under the 2 minutes. If you have any questions, this is our contact information. Currently, Carl is out of the office on medical, but you can reach out to myself, Angela Brewer, Stephanie, or Mike Corp if you have any questions about the federal contracting program. Thank you.
Angela?
No.
We have a question for you. Which organization will help with the capability statements?
The WBC, you all do the capability statement, right, Shirley? The WBC, you can actually reach out to myself because I have some examples, or the SBDC can assist you with capability statement, because when you go see a federal aid, when you send information, because we have what is called the agency contact list here at SBA. Did I send you that, Cheryl? Shake your head because you're muted. Okay. We have an agency contact list that consists of all the federal agency here in South Carolina, some in North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So when you're sending or trying to get a capability brief with those federal contracting officers, you want to send them a copy of your capability statement, and then you get a capability brief, and they give you 30 minutes to an hour to do a capability brief, but they want to see your capability statement first. So you can reach out to the WBCs, the SBDC, or SCORE, or even our office, and we can look over your capability statement and give you some pointers.
Yes, and that's what we do at the WBC, is help you to understand the government system, how to navigate the government system, because you have city, county, state, federal, and you want to be positioned and you want to be ready to do business with the government. So what we do at the WBC is, and I'm not going to stay on here too long because we want to get to Ms. Charmaine, but is to help you develop the plan, you know, and I'm always going to take it back to the plan, right? The written document, write the vision, because you want to make sure that your business is positioned to do business with the government, that you have done a full assessment and that you are ready with all the material, with your plan, your marketing, doing business with the government, being positioned, being ready. And it's a lot of checklist that goes up under that, but we can share that with you and help you to develop that plan. Because one of the requirements, I don't know, it was a requirement, I know, with the 8A certification, once you become 8A, you have to do a business plan just for doing business with the government with that certification. And you want to do that anyway. You want to have that plan. How am I going to navigate this system? How much, how am I going to start? What size contracts, so on and so forth, what qualifies me, and so on and so forth. So we will help you with that.
And on November 12th, since I'm plugging, November 12th, we're doing a federal, because it's Veterans Month, we're doing a veteran-owned small business forum that's on the 12th. Is on our website. Although it's for veteran, because it's Veteran Month, anyone can log in. I have 7 contracting officers from Fort Jackson, Shaw, Spay War, Fire Service, and National Guard, the VA, and one other, Joint Base Charleston, that will be there, and they will give a forecast of what FY21, what they're looking for FY21. So if you're interested, it's free of charge. We didn't have our Salute to Small Business this year because we had the COVID. So this is my way of bringing this forum together. So we're going to do a live, I think it's Skype, for those who are interested in joining us to see what the federal government has to offer.
Okay, Angela, we have a few more questions. Do you have to pay to renew your SAMs? What about home health care? And if you are currently enrolled with SAM, what is the expected turnaround for your cage code?
No, you do not have to pay. There are people out there that do offer their services at a charge, but if you go to the WBC, SBDC, or SCORE, or even SBA, because I know last week I spent an hour with a young lady getting her into SAM. So you do not have to charge, and there is no recertification. Every year on your anniversary day or before your anniversary, if you just click through the SAM program, and at the end update, that's all you have to do. You don't need to pay anyone to do that, to click through the recertifying. With SAM, it takes about 2 to 3 hours, depending on how computer savvy, if you have the time, because you can save and come back. But it only takes you 2 to 3 hours to input all your information. You would need a NAICS code. You can only need one, but you can put in as many as possible. I mean, as many as you can perform. And you asked about healthcare or something like that.
Yeah, what about healthcare? And what about home healthcare?
I know the VA do outsource some of their healthcare when you have veterans that cannot get to the VA, that's not in a home or in a facility or anything like that. Because I know, me being a veteran, when I was going through some of my appointments, I would go to Lexington, like for mammograms or different things like that. So some of the programs are outsourced, but in order to work with the VA, you have to be registered in VetBiz.gov. I think it's VIP.vetbiz.gov, but you need to be registered in SAM first in order to register in VetBiz. So there are opportunities for that NAICS code. I just have to find that NAICS code. If you don't know your NAICS code, give me a call tomorrow and I can assist you with finding any one of you all. Just give me a call tomorrow and I can assist you in finding out, determining what NAICS code best suits you, or show you how to find your NAICS code. And what was the other question, Tangi?
What is the turnaround if you're already enrolled with SAM? What is the expected turnaround for your cage code?
It's probably immediately or the next day. I think you can go on through SAM. If you check no that you do not have a cage code, they'll let you continue and they'll give you one when they email you. Because when you do SAM and complete SAM, they're going to send you an email immediately saying thank you for registering SAM. Allow 5 to 7 business days, you receive a second email that say congratulations, you have successfully registered in SAM, because SAM, DUNS, and the IRS talk to each other. So I just had this problem with a client last week. However you put your information in DUNS and Bradstreet, make sure it's the exact same way. If you capitalize everything in SAM. If you do ampersand instead of and, do the ampersand. If you do Inc. instead of incorporated, because if one has one and you put this in another, another one of the sources is not going to recognize you. So make sure you do it the exact same way everywhere you put it.
Okay, Angela, you got one more question, but I think you can answer that in the chat box so we can move on. And
Okay.
Brian, we will go through the what it takes about the application in the next presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing. And thank you so much for sharing. And yes, we are here to help you all navigate the system and prepare you for contracting, if that's your match. Next up, coming to the Zoom podium is Charmaine Manning. Thank you so much for joining us, Charmaine. Charmaine comes to us from the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce. She is the Chief Operating Officer of Member Services Coordinator, Chief Operating Officer of Events for the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce. Through her position at the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Manning has effectively leveraged her professional experience, which includes extensive local government knowledge and personal business ownership, to assist women and other small business owners grow their interests. No matter which hat she's wearing, her goal is simple: to empower small business leaders to start and develop successful businesses while advancing related government policy. So we're going to turn this over to Ms. Charmaine. Thank you for sharing today, and we look forward to all of these golden nuggets.
Thank you so very much, and thank you for having me. I hope you can all hear me well. I wanted to go ahead and go over a little bit about the U.S. Women's Chamber. And then I'm going to talk about upcoming opportunities, the benefits and history of the ED, WSB, and WSB program. Then we'll get into the eligibility requirements, how to apply. You do have free options. There are some paid options. And then ultimately program changes that just went into effect as of October. And then lastly, certification services offered by USWCC.
Can you mute your microphones, please? Thank you.
Okay, so I think you all can hear me. That's much better on my end. Thank you for everybody for muting. So a picture here, if you, some of you may have met Ms. Dorfman or know her through the years. Ms. Dorfman is the president and CEO of the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce. She also serves as the VP of Government Affairs for the American Small Business Chamber of Commerce, which is our counterpart for other small businesses that aren't necessarily women-owned. In addition, you see me, there's my picture there. I am now the Chief Operating Officer over all of the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce rather than just events, so that's new to me. And I'm trying to get comfortable with that role as we move forward. So a little bit about us. We are a 501c6 not-for-profit, nonpartisan trade association, and we are based in DC. We do have over 500,000 members, and those are all made up of individuals, small business representatives, small business advocates, such as some of you on the line today, as well as our large prime and federal agency partners. We are independent and non-captive, which simply means we are funded through our members and for our members. We do not accept funding from large corporations or political sponsors. So we want to be in a position to be able to speak for you as issues that affect women-owned small businesses. We don't want to be shaded or have our opinions shaded by accepting funding. So that's why we do it that way. We do push for economic growth for women workers and women business owners alike, and we are the only organization who so far has been able to bridge that gap. Our founder, again, co-founder, Ms. Dorfman, started working several years ago. Our goal is to remain independent and non-captive so that we can be free from corporate or political influences to ensure economic advancement for women and small businesses alike. We are known to be a watchdog for transparency and accountability, and we try to drive legislation on key issues impacting small businesses and federal contractors alike. If you happen to be interested in memberships, we do offer memberships. We have complimentary memberships that just get you plugged in for the news and notices for upcoming sessions or meetings. And then for those of you who are working in federal space, we do offer some different paid memberships. Of course, those are optional. Some of the things that they come with, if you're a supplier member, which is the membership that's targeted and used for people in federal space, are systems such as BidMatch, which kind of help you. There are other resources and certainly free resources you can use to gain that access. We were talking about some of those US spending and USA spending and different things. What the BidMatch system does specifically is it gathers all of those resources from the various databases and then delivers them to your inbox. But again, definitely look around because there are lots of resources. And as a small business, and especially if any of you are a startup small business, you know, sometimes you might not have the funding to put out for that. And so definitely take advantage of your time and resources. We did publish something called the Wake Up Call Report. It is on our website. It's uswcc.org/wakeupcall. And it actually looks at the numbers and what's happening with women-owned firms and minority firms, and specifically women of color own 28% of women-owned small firms, but only secure about 14% of the revenues for the contracts that come out from the federal government. So it has some alarming yet true details in it, and it was all gathered from census data. So it is a little dated because, as you know, our new census hasn't come out. I expect that it'll be redone, but what is interesting is those numbers still stand true today. Okay, so a look ahead. Always, I would say check on your target agencies when you're looking at federal contracting to see what outreach events they have. Many of them offer industry days, and you can take advantage of free matchmaking and help. Definitely call on your resources that were provided to you today for capability statement. Utilize your PTAC offices. Utilize every resource you have because there's tons of resources out there. If you are interested in any of our upcoming events, we are hosting USAID's outreach event virtually. It was supposed to be originally on site in California, but due to the pandemic, it got changed to be a virtual event. It's a one-day event. It's on December 8th, 2020. And then we do have a 3-day event. And typically, this is our event where we celebrate Women's History Month. We go to the Capitol. We talk to our congressional leaders. We have matchmaking. But because of COVID-19, it has also been moved virtually. But we will be back live in South Carolina. And that will be June 3rd, 2021 for our Southeast District Summit. And we will have heavy Department of State there, as well as other agencies. Hopefully, we'll see some of our folks from today's meeting and get to connect you with contracting officers. If you want additional information on our meetings, please visit us at uswcc.org/meetings. So let's get to the meat of the presentation. Enough about us. Let's talk about your needs for federal contracting. So in 1994, Federal Acquisition Streamlining Act was set the WOSB contracting goal of 5%. So we heard a little bit about that before and the percentage for the WOSB program. In December 2000, Equality in Contracting for Women's Act was actually signed into law, and what that did was it gave agencies the ability to limit certain competitions to women-owned small businesses. October 2004, we did get a rocky start initially with the SBA. I'm proud to report it was before my time, but now we are on a good solid ground with SBA, and we are friends and partners as we move forward through this. But we actually did bring a lawsuit initially against SBA for failure to implement the program once it passed. By April of 2011, the program went live, and in June, we started processing as a TCP or third-party processor for WOSB or EDWSB's third-party certification. A little bit closer to where we are coming, in June of 2013, Congresswoman Velasquez, along with 5 co-sponsors, introduced HR 2452. That was known as the Women's Procurement Program Equalization Act, and it was made to mirror the other socioeconomic set-aside programs. It removed self-certification, added sole source, and provided for accountability. In October 2014, GAO released report findings that 40% of WOSB contracts were actually being awarded to ineligible firms for the 2012 through 2013 contracting year. Now, those 40% of ineligible firms were made up of various factors. Some may have been that they weren't truly women-owned. Some of them may have been that they didn't meet all the regulations of control, and it just went on and on. But regardless of the actual reason, 40% was the overall makeup. In December of 2014, the NDAA was signed into law. It effectively removed self-certification and added sole source and accountability. At that time, SBA implemented the sole source feature only, but it didn't and wasn't able to implement the end of self-certification yet. October 2017, the SBA Office of Inspector General released findings that 40% of WOSB contracts were actually still going to ineligible firms. Calls were made upon the SBA to implement the required end of self-certification. And that kind of brings us up more to current time. May 11, 2020, as you may be aware, SBA published the final regulations to update the EDWOSB and WOSB program in self-certification. The activities required for the transition were spread out over a number of months as it's a major undertaking to change those systems over. It started previous where they had sent out notices letting everyone know that the certify.sba.gov site where you previously applied for self-certification was being taken down. Essentially, they were asked that you removed your documents because they weren't going to continue to maintain such documents. That deadline has been extended to remove those documents into the first part of next year. I just seen a bulletin about that. Then the next deadline started up at July 15th, and I wouldn't say deadline, but a trigger point would be more what I would say, and it goes through October 15th. And what was happening October 15th is that firms were able to begin to use the new system that replaced the original system. The new system is beta, B-E-T-A, .certify.sba.gov. So that is the new certification arm for the WOSB or EDWOSB program. And you can begin submitting applications free of charge to SBA for that program starting July 15th, and it continues obviously through today. Now, October 15th was the published date that SBA began to issue decisions on certification applications. You should note that self-certifications only remained in effect from previous issue through October 15th, 2020. Now, the caveat to that is if you'd already won a contract through your previous self-certification that you would have originally received at certify.sba.gov, you would still be able to use that self-certification to service existing contracts at that point. There is a new streamlined process for third-party certified firms through the SBA. It does require the submission of third-party certificates and your citizenship and gender verification into their system. What you don't have to submit is all the other supporting documents as listed. That is possible because, again, they have 4 third-party approved certifiers that work directly hand in hand with SBA and under SBA processing. And so because you've turned those documents in and because your documents have been certified and reviewed through those third parties that are approved, then that's why you only have to submit your certificate and citizenship and gender verification. The third party is then responsible for issuing that certificate and maintaining your documents if the SBA needs to see them. So benefits, I see lots of chat history here. Let's see. All right, so the federal government limits competitions to certain contracts to businesses that hold the WOSB or EDWOSB. So let's break it down a little bit. WOSBs and EDWOSBs are known as contracting vehicles. That's really what it is. There are many types that we heard about earlier. There's Hub Zone, there's Service Disabled Veterans, there's 8A. All of them are contracting vehicles. So you don't have to have any of those to compete in contracting. As we talked about, you can compete full and open, but if you can get a set aside that you qualify for, it does improve because then it limits the competition to folks who also have that set aside contract. And I always say the more that you can get and qualify for, the better chances you are. So for example, if you are in a hub zone and you can go ahead and get qualified for hub zone, but you're also a woman-owned small business, great, get them both, because not only do you then limit competition to businesses among that, but remember the federal agencies and large prime contractors also have a goal to meet of percentages of contracts that are awarded to those type firms. So it makes you even more valuable as a player in the field. There were over $700 million in set-aside contracts awarded, and they were made via 3,500 unique contracts in fiscal year 19 to EDWSB and WOSB firms. Again, these contracts are eligible to be set aside for competition among women-owned small businesses, WSB, when the industry codes, which is known as the NAICS codes, of the acquisitions have been determined to be underrepresented for women-owned firms. Again, some contracts are further restricted to economic disadvantaged firms, EDWSB. So I'll break this down a little bit further. It's often thought that you can compete or gain certification in both WOSB and EDWSB, but that's actually a myth. It's either or. So how I explain it is WOSB is the tree. So we're going to say that is the main trunk. That's the program. The EDWSB, or folks who can qualify as economically disadvantaged, is the higher tier of the program. So you want to access both types, right? So if you're economically disadvantaged, you actually get access to both types of set-aside, WOSB and EDWSB. Whereas if you only are WOSB, meaning that you are not economically disadvantaged, you did not seek to become an economically disadvantaged firm, then you can only access WOSB. So the rule of thumb is if you can apply and gain EDWSB status, you're going to have more opportunities because there's more set aside. The SBA, as you've learned before, does maintain a list of eligible industries and their NAICS codes. And the NAICS codes help determine your size standards. So size standards, as we heard some about earlier, are usually they are done by two ways, either your revenues, and it is your gross revenues averaged over a period of years, or your number of employees. Typically, number of employees most often that affect folks that I see come through the program are manufacturing firms. And as we talked about earlier, the gross revenues are up there. Don't let that discourage you. Go ahead and use SBA's tools on their website to take a look and see what your size standards are. In most cases, or in several cases, it's in 15 million, 16 million, 32 million, you know, so just small business doesn't necessarily mean what you think it might mean. Okay. Having a little freeze on my computer. Y'all bear with me a second. Okay, there we go. So moving on, let's talk about program eligibility requirements. So when you talk about program eligibility requirements, the first thing you need to think about, and this is whether you're considering WOSB or EDWSB, there's three main things. The first thing is you must be small in size. So if you're small in size, again, it's going to go back to those industry standard codes and your revenues and your employees, number of employees. You can look at the size standard table for the WSB program. I always Google for it. It comes up in a nice little PDF that you can search with the Control F function. You can search by keyword, you can search by NAICS code, and you can look at that size standard is. So you need to be represented within that table, and you need to have be under that threshold that's listed by that NAICS code to be considered small business for this program. You must also be at least 51% owned and controlled by women who are U.S. citizens. That 51% doesn't have to just be one woman, it can be one or many women, but overall it has to be at least 51%. So not 50.99, but in fact 51% or higher. You must also have women manage the day-to-day operations and make the long-term decisions. So within the regulations for the WSB or EDWSB program specifically, the regulations lay out what it means to manage day-to-day, the key areas of control within a business. And so you have to make sure that you're You don't necessarily have to do all of the work in each one of those areas, but what you do need to do is have the final say. So there needs to be some oversight to show that you are managing the business day to day. And then in long-term decisions, if you have multiple partners, you can still have all your partners' buy-ins, but at the end of the day, you have to be the person that's in charge to have that final decision as the woman leading the business. So those are the first basic regulations required for the program. Seems like a lot already just for those 3 things, right? So the next thing is, I would say, is if you can't meet those original 3 things that we just talked about, you shouldn't go further or go forward with your application until you can assess and make sure you come into compliance with those. Because if you're not in compliance with those 3 initials, then you're not, the rest don't matter, because those are your hard stops initially. So moving forward, we're going to skip over to the next slide, and then I'll back up so we can talk about economic disadvantage status. So these are the next steps, and these do apply to everybody, the rest of the regulations for WOSB and EDWOSB. So we talked about being small and what that means, and primary NAICS codes, and all the information associated with that. We talked about being owned and controlled, and 51% that could be made up of any number of women, but at least 51%. And it has to be unconditional and direct ownership. The women do have to be U.S. citizens, and there are no provisions in business documents or agreements, so things like your bylaws, your operating agreements, joint venture agreements, things of that nature, trusts, any of those documents that can limit your control in any way. There can be no supermajority voting requirements. They're just not allowed. The women must manage the day-to-day operations and have the skills and experience to do so. So what does that mean, the skills and experience? You need to be able to demonstrate that you do have background knowledge, whether it's through education, experience, exposure, combination of all of them, to manage effectively the business within the industry that you say you're in. So a perfect prime example is if you are in the construction agency business and you're applying for certification for that. If you don't have any knowledge of the construction business, you have no education that relates, no kind of industry experience at all, it's going to be really hard to prove that you have the skill and experience to run a construction firm. So that's a big one. So you just need to be able to illustrate and document that you do have some kind of background knowledge and the ability to run that business. The next is women must make the long-term decisions. Again, we talked about you could have input and buy-in from all your partners if you have multiple partners, but you have to be the final voice. And this one's unique. A woman must hold the highest officer position in the business. So notice it didn't say the woman owner, it said a woman. So you can hire an additional person if you choose to hold the highest officer. It does have to be a woman. So what does it mean to hold the highest officer position? So it's going to be typically a CEO or a president, something like that, or whatever the top position within your firm is. So that a woman must hold that position, and then act as such really comes down to what duties they perform when they're working every day. So if you're saying you're the president and they're in control of the business, they're typically overseeing operations, everything, signing all the important documents, everything that they typically have to do as the president or the CEO. And a lot of times that's defined in your operating agreements or your bylaws. The woman who holds that position on paper must also be the woman who's performing the duties. So it has to be both ways. It can't just be in paper. That woman that holds that highest officer position must also work at the business full-time during normal working hours. Oh, that's another big one. So what does that really mean? So it's really hard to get, as business owners, we all know, to really establish your business and get it kicked off, right? Sometimes you need to do what you have to do, and that might mean hustling, working 2 and 3 jobs. Well, that's okay, but the way in which you do it is really where it comes down. What it really means, this regulation is, it comes down to industry standard hours. So let's say that you are a small business and you are working in the financial sector, and your industry standard hours are Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. Great. So what that would mean is that woman that's working full-time during normal working hours, that means that she must be available for that applicant firm business Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. Outside of those hours, whether it's on the weekends, before work, after work, she's free to work whatever other side job or business or whatever she needs to do to make that hustle to get this business off the ground. However, if she's not available full time, then that would be an issue with regulation and something you would have to be able to articulate and overcome. So it really comes down to industry standard hours. What's nice and unique about this program, specifically when you think about 8A program, there is no minimum amount of time for the business to be operational to participate in this particular set aside or contracting vehicle. So you can literally establish your business now, and by this afternoon you can apply to participate and get certification as a WOSB and EDWOSB. Okay. This is the last major one for WOSBs, and it's a little sticky. Everybody hates this one, so I'm going to go slow and break it down a little bit better. Let's talk about affiliation and affiliated firms. Now, how you and I may define and think about affiliation is not necessarily the way that SBA regulations define affiliation. In these terms, when you're considering small business programs from the SBA, you need to think about affiliation is basically sharing. Sharing of resources, sharing of equipment, sharing of people. People includes owners, sharing. So if you're sharing something with another business, guess what? In terms of this program and the regulations, it's affiliated. Maybe not how you think about it, but again, it doesn't matter how we think about it, it matters how the regulations state it. So affiliation. So, and then does that mean if I have an affiliated firm that you can't still qualify for affiliation? It does not. It simply comes down, when it's all boiled down, to business size and determining proper business size to assess if you really truly are a small business. So let's boil it down a little bit further. If you are an applicant firm and say you are a construction firm and you have a gas plumbing construction firm, you also own shares in a water plumbing construction firm, and maybe you own a tanning salon. We'll just say that. You are applying for the gas plumbing business. So when we first look at your documents, we are going to identify, because you are the owner and you are sharing yourself as a resource as with the water plumbing, gas plumbing, and tanning salon, we're going to break it down to industry to decide if there's an impact being had against the applicant firm. Well, since you're applying for one of the construction firms, we can rule out the tanning salon. Unless there's just a time conflict and how you're spending your time, there's no industry impact because they're two separate things. However, it's probably a fairly safe bet if you own two plumbing firms and one's gas and one's water, there's some kind of additional crossover, whether it's sharing of contracts, employees, workspace, your time. So at that point, if there is considered that there's a possible impacting affiliate, then we would have to get additional information as processors so that we could determine proper business size. Now remember what you were told earlier. For construction, and I can't tell you exactly for the two that I used, the plumbing, I should have looked that up for this presentation, but let's just say that the size standard was $32 million for that particular industry. How that would be determined is we would add up the gross revenues for each small business, so your plumbing and gas, your water plumbing and gas plumbing companies, and then get their averages, and then we would combine their averages, gross income, to put that against the small business size standard. And provided that both of the combined revenues came in at less than that standard, so 32 million, let's say, then you're good to go. You still don't have a problem. So it really comes down to business size and how it's impacted. Okay, so that was a lot and a lot of words. Let's back up a little bit. If you are looking for WOSB solely and you're not interested in economic disadvantage, that's all you need to really worry about. There are some other regulations, they're minor, those are the most common. Let's talk about economic disadvantaged. So what does it mean to be economically disadvantaged? In order to be presumed economically disadvantaged, your company must be owned and controlled by one or more women. So it's talking about that root 51% right there. And each of those women that make up that 51% must have a net worth of less than $750,000. That's a lot of money. Usually that's okay, right? Everybody's rare when you see a small business that's not familiar with the program that's over that threshold. You must be owned and controlled by one or more women. So again, that's that 51%. And each of those women that make up that 51% must have $350,000 or $50,000 or less in adjusted gross income averaged over the previous 3 years. Where do you get your adjusted gross income from? You get your adjusted gross income directly from your federal income taxes. But Charmaine, I file jointly with my spouse, right? Well, it's okay. So you're going to put the numbers directly as they are represented, because that's going to be, everything has to kind of match up. And then if there's a problem and you're over, you're able to explain why you're over, and it would be looked at differently. So it would be broken down to break out your spouses from yours, so we could really see where everything lays. Typically, folks who apply for the EDWSB program, even listing the adjusted gross income, filing a joint tax return with their spouse, have no issues. So they don't have to go that far. But if it does, you're able to then have it further evaluated. Okay, you must also be owned and controlled by one or more women. Remember, that's that 51%, and each of those must have 6 million or less in personal assets. So that's what makes you economically disadvantaged. So if you're looking for economically disadvantaged, you have to meet all of the previous things we talked about, both at the top of this slide, the next slide, plus these things. Again, if you're not looking to be economically disadvantaged and you're just looking for the standard WSB, don't worry about the economically disadvantaged part down here at the bottom. Okay. I told you before, and I just want to tell you again, if you can apply for economically disadvantaged and you think you qualify, go ahead and apply for that, because simply put, it's just more opportunity. You have more access to more set-aside contracts. More opportunity equals more potential profit, because, why not? So EDWS firms, we talked about that. Okay. So I think that we covered this pretty good. So let's talk about program changes, what happened this year, starting October 15th. And let's also talk about what options you have to get certified right now. So right now you have 2 options. The first option we're going to talk about is the free file, which is provided by SBA.gov directly. You can do that every day right now. It's open since it's after October 15th at beta.certify.sba.gov. I can tell you that there are hundreds of people in line. The line started for me, remember, back in July. So they are processing as fast as they can, and they are trying to work through. They began issuing their written notices of eligibility on October 15th. So, but understand there is a line there, and this is a process. Every one of your documents that they require have to be examined, and it's almost like a forensic examination. They cross-reference everything. They have to make sure that it all matches. It goes back to, you heard the advice of a previous speaker talking about make sure that everything you enter in your DUNS profile matches your SAM profile. Well, I'm going to tell you that beta.certify.sba compares against your SAM profile. So if you list one particular NAICS code in SAM.gov and then you go as your primary, and then you go into beta.certify.sba.gov and you list a different primary NAICS, you're going to have a problem. Consistency is the key, and consistency is the key whether you use third party or processing for free through beta.certify.gov. Everything is a check and balance. That's why they request those documents, and you better make sure that you can dot those I's and cross those T's, or that's where you're going to have an eligibility issue. So again, you can use beta.certify.gov. There is no guarantee or set period of time, but they do have a specific process in place. And I think I have a slide on it. If I don't, I know it by heart and I'll go over it with you. So let's keep going for a second. Okay, the option 2 is you can also use third-party certification. You can start that with any of the approved third-party processors. USWCC is one of those. The disadvantage the third-party process is that it does cost you money. So they're probably at this point, if you're just getting in line, you may get through third-party faster than you might at beta.certify.sba.gov, but you have to pay for it. And so you really have to just look at your business individually and what your needs are. And is it more important to you to get it faster, or is money more of an issue and you really need to just save your pennies for something that you really don't have to pay for and go through the free process? So that's really kind of where you have to, you know, put your thinking cap on and decide what's good for your business. If you would like to use third-party processing, SBA does maintain a list. There are four companies that are approved, and all of them have unique fees and unique document requirements. And those are per their agreements with the SBA directly. There are currently more than 90,000 firms. Now, this was last week's numbers. I don't know if they've improved or increased since last week, but 90,000 firms in the government database who claim WOSB or EDWSB status. So remember, I told you there's only 4 third-party processors, and there's only one of beta.certified.sba.gov. So out of 90,000 firms, those all have to go to one of 5 places. So I'm telling you this because I want you to be patient with the folks at SBA.gov. I know that you're in a hurry. I want you to be patient with your third-party processors. There's a long line, and it's very important that you really are eligible for the program. So there's going to be a lot of checks. It is a process. It's not something you pay for and you get, and that's much different than the original certified.sba.gov self-certify. How that worked was as you issued your documents into the system and you self-certified, you attested that you met all those eligibility requirements. Well, you can imagine the problem with that is a lot of people don't understand the eligibility requirements right now. So if you don't clearly understand them or know what they are, how can you possibly say, yes, I qualify? And that was part of the 40% of the firms there. So moving on. So I don't think, yep, it didn't. So let me actually take a pause right here for a second. Remember I told you I would tell you about beta.certified.sba.gov's process. I don't see my slide in here, so I'm just going to break it down for you. The first process is you're going to go to beta.certified.sba.gov and you're going to create your registration. And on that registration, it's going to ask you, as the women business owner, you have to be the woman business owner, you start it, and then you can assign delegates, people to handle it for you, but you must be the person who starts that. From there, you will complete a questionnaire, which is just their application, essentially, and answer documents, and then you will have to eventually tell them whether you are going to third-party process or you're going to use them specifically for the full process. If you use them specifically and you check that box, then there's going to be their list of supporting documents in which you have to upload. Those are also maintained under the Prepare tab on beta.certified.sba.gov. If you tell them that you're going to use third party, then what you submit is your copy of your certificate from your third party certifier and your document being your passport, naturalization paper, or your birth certificate showing your gender and citizenship eligibility. I get this question a lot. Yes, your documents do have to be valid. So you can't use an expired passport. Sorry, you'll be better off to find a birth certificate if you haven't got one. And you can get that at your vital statistics office. Typically health departments, if I'm familiar with Florida most, so Florida, the health department. So from there, that's all you have to submit. So now you're into the system and you submitted either all your documents, meaning third-party requirements, or your SBA requirements from their supporting documents. When you start, it goes into a 15-day cycle. So in 15 days, when they get to you in line initially, and there is a line in the processing queue, they're going to look at your documents for completeness. If they find something is missing, they're going to let you know that you have a deficiency, and it will restart your 15-day cycle. So then you have 15 more days to resubmit any deficiencies you have. At the end of that 15-day cycle, they're going to look again and see if you cleared your deficiencies. If you didn't, you're going back into another 15-day cycle, and it just goes on and on. It's unclear right this second how many 15-day cycles you're going to get. I will tell you that ultimately and eventually, if you take too long, your documents become stale because everything's are time-sensitive tax documents. If you have to do the EDWSB, they're going to ask for tax documents, which is something new, by the way, on their website. And you have to submit some financial information. So everything has to be active and current. Can't be stale information. So, and then from there, they are saying that from the time your file is finally marked complete, meaning you have any more deficiencies and you've submitted everything, however many 15-day loops it takes you to do it, at that point, you'll go into the final processing queue, and when they get to you, they're saying they'll issue decisions within 90 business days. Now, we're told that they're trying to do them within 30, but this is new, and we're just not sure. There is a long line everywhere, so that'll help. Now, if you're looking at third-party, the third-party processes are similar. I can tell you about ours specifically. We do the same thing. You go, you do your initial application. We accept your supporting documents off of our document list, and essentially we check them for completeness. If they are found complete, you get passed through to the next exam, and then you get your exam within 30 days. However, if they're incomplete, which is most often the case, unfortunately, it does get a deficiency issued, and then you go around and round through the deficiencies. We don't do it in a 15-day loop, though. We try to review them within about 48 hours after deficiency when you submit them. So you can get through the processing line a little bit faster that way. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about program changes. Program changes. So for the first time, the WSB program is going to recognize Department of Veteran Affairs CVEs as part of the document that you can use towards your certification as a WOSB or EDWSB. You do have to go directly through SBA if you want to take advantage of using your CVE. And then on top of that, there'll be additional documents that they're going to have to submit along with the CVE. What are those documents? It's unclear right this second. So I'm not sure. You'll just have to go through the process and then see what they request of you when you're using your CVE. The same exists for the 8A. That already existed, but you can use your 8A certification towards gaining your WOSB or EDWSB. And if you have an 8A, provided you can show you out, you know, that's the thing, you automatically get that WOSB or EDWSB. So there's some different things that you have to do. So if you're going to use either CVE or AA, you must go directly through SBA's service. You cannot use third party. Okay, it confirmed the continued participation of approved third party processors. It eliminated self-certification options. That's why we're here today, right? Talking about this from the certify.sba.gov. That was effective as of October 15th, 2020. It eliminated the appeal process. This one's big. So under the previous regulations, you were able to appeal a denial decision if you were denied by third-party processing. With the new regulations, it doesn't matter if you're denied either by third-party or SBA directly. You go into a 90-day hold before you're allowed to reapply. I call it timeout. So you go into timeout if you mess up. Okay, so it also has enacted an annual process that you have to attest that your WSB status has not changed. So why is that important? Well, originally under the previous regulations, certifications were only good for 1 year at a time, and you had to recertify every year. Well, with the new regulations starting October 15th, they are now good for 3 years at a time, provided that you handle your annual attestation. I can't ever say that correctly, guys. And you make sure that you can say nothing has changed. If it has changed and you are required to report changes, then there'll be an additional process. Last update that I had last week, it's thought that the annual process was going to be handled through the either the SAM portal or the beta portal, but I haven't got actual formal notice of that yet. We haven't got there to where we have to redo anything annually yet. We're just trying to still process the initial applications, I think, across all formats. So that's a good thing. 1 year to 3 years, provide nothing's changed. We do have additional information available for our process. So if you want to get our full process and go over document checklist, at least as we require, we do have another certification meeting scheduled, I believe tomorrow, and then we have them repeated weekly. You can register for those at USWCC if you need that. Additionally, it adopted the $750,000 net worth standard. The reason this was is they wanted to make it so that it was the same across the 8A program and this program when considering economic disadvantaged. So they basically matched with that $750,000 net worth threshold. The funds invested in official retirement accounts, so official retirement accounts mean anything that IRS says is official and it counts, right? Are excluded when you analyze your economically disadvantaged individual personal net worth. So you can deduct that retirement account when you're figuring your net worth. You can also deduct the value of your primary residence. Only your primary now. Don't be trying to get your secondary, only your primary, ladies. Okay, so next, the new WSB program regulations are thought that it's going to make it easier for those COs to set aside and make awards to firms because they don't have to worry about it now since they are all being examined if they're eligible or not. They don't have to worry about doing additional checks and additional steps. So we're hoping that through these steps, it's going to bring more value to the program for our women-owned small businesses and also just make the contracting officers breathe a little bit easier. If you are interested in USWCC certification, we do have two options. We do offer a certification assist process, and that's just basically a prep service. So you can use that ahead of certification. It helps troubleshoot and prepare your documents for submittal. So if you're worried that you have a really complex situation with your business and you don't want to risk going through the application process and getting denied, you can use that process. It does have a fee associated and it does add time. So if time's really important and you're trying to get through fast, I wouldn't recommend the certification assist process because it's basically like a double process. So time is important for us. So, okay, if you are looking, and remember I told you SBA is free, and you can use SBA's process for free. But if you decide that you don't want to go that route and you want to see what USWCC does, we do charge $350. So $350 would be the price for your 3-year certification. And then at the end of the 3 years, you would renew. And each time you renew, you can renew either through one of the other third-party processors, ourselves, or SBA, again, directly for free. But you still have to do that annual attestation. All right, so these are the prices. I told you certification assist came with a fee. Most people on this call are probably going to be non-members of USWCC, so you would be looking at $276. And then you can see that they're discounted if you use certification assist for the certification. You can also use certification assist and then go use the free service if you just are feeling like you need that extra help and really take apart your regulations. And I'm sure there's help available at your PTACs and the development centers for help looking through your regulations and helping with you there too. So again, I'm a big advocate on making sure you take advantage of your free sources before you start paying for sources. And I hate to say that, we are a 501c6, but I'm going to tell you, look for your free sources. Okay, so the SBA's timeline for complimentary certification may not meet yours. Remember, I told you that it's a trade-off. You need to decide whether or not time is more important because you probably are going to get through faster third party, but it's going to cost you, or money is more important because, yeah, for me, I'm thinking money is more important, especially if I'm new for to self-contracting or third-party federal contracting, excuse me. If you do need help and you want to look at our process again, these are our dates. We have 10/28, 11/4, 11/18, 12/2, and 12/16, and we do a full process. We go over all the eligibility requirements. We go over all of the documents and what they entail and how you get around that if you can't provide that document, but that's available to you all if you need it. And for that, if you're interested in joining any of our upcoming meetings, I think tomorrow we have Sarita from GSA talking about getting on the GSA schedule. She's coming in tomorrow for that web meeting, so you can check that out if you're interested. She's a wonderful speaker. And with that, thank you very much. And that's the end of my presentation, and I'll go to questions.
All right, thank you so much, Charmaine. We have a lot of, quite a bit of questions in the chat box. Angela has done an awesome job. Thank you, Angela, with answering a lot of those questions. Tangi, let's see, I think you answered most of them.
I believe so too.
The one about trust is the one that I had an issue with. I've never had to work with the trust thing. So, Charmaine, have you ever had the question asked about a trust?
And the question is, can a WOSB place their company in a trust for purposes the owners beneficiaries? Can the business be left to beneficiaries through a trust?
Okay, so this one's complex, and I have lots of experience with trust. As you guessed, it's complex. So it's going to first depend on, is it revocable? Is it irrevocable? Who's in control of that trust? How do you the rule of thumb is remember, you can't have anything for control and ownership that is impeding the woman owner's control, right? So if you're owning your shares of your business through a trust that's irrevocable, there's a problem, right? Because now you have impeded control. So it's really going to come down, usually, I won't say it's a hard stop, because I hate to say that, because it all depends on reviewing that document and seeing how it's laid out. But irrevocable trusts, let's just say they're hard to overcome. Revocable trusts, those can be done. I've seen them successfully done. However, it really does come down to the trustees and the control limits within that trust document. The best thing that really the SBA regulation says that you can't, as I explained, you can't own your shares through another type of business entity. Same thing for a subsidiary. It's kind of looked at the same kind of way. You can't get a subsidiary certified. It has to be the parent company.
Mm-hmm.
So your subsidiary can't hold your shares and you get certified that way. So trusts are unique, and that's really where it comes down to the trustees and if it's revocable and who controls that trust, how it affects the control.
For farming, how would I determine standard hours, because they vary throughout the year?
So first thing that you would want to look at is like an industry study. What's the position, like what's the and okay, so what's your industry? That's where it's going to come back to you. So it's industry standard. So people tell me that with consulting. So, well, I'm a consultant and they vary. Yeah, but what do you consult in, and when is that work most typically done? Because that's where it comes down to. So you really have to drill down and be real about what your industry is and what those industry standard hours. Then do your market research. We love that term, right? To see what the standard industry hours are, and it's kind of loosely defined. So you really have to be able to illustrate or make a good case that it's not conflicting with those standard style hours.
Great.
Okay, Gisetta asked a question. What if you were certified under a different business years ago? Does that expire?
If you're talking about WSB or EDWSB, yes, it expired 1 year after you originally applied for it, which is something most people didn't realize, is that, you know, they had a 1 year expiration date on them. So, and then that didn't matter if you were self-certified or you went through third parties. So yes, years ago, you're no longer certified unless you renewed it. And even if you did, it stopped being effective as of October 15th to solicit new opportunity.
Awesome.
Do they have the checklist, the checklist on the Beta Certified SBA site?
Yeah, actually, you guys, I can share that with you. Hold on 1 second. Let me get there. Where'd it go?
And while you're looking, that up, and I bring that up because, my little tidbit, there you go, thank you, is to start there, or even before you start there, is I can't stress the importance of planning and making sure that everything is in order before pursuing government contracting. It is really, really important. And that's where the service providers come in, making sure your branding is in order, basic branding to your website. And if you're really serious about government contracting, you need to make sure that that website is government contracting friendly. I've seen some major government contractors where the procurement officers can actually go on the site and download that capability statement. So you really want to set it up to set your business up. If you're serious about government contracting, get everything in order. Self-educate about, especially your accounting system. Self-educate about DCAA audit. So that is that Defense Contract Audit Agency. Okay, and I know we've had a lot of terms today and everything. Your head might be spinning on some of these things, but it is our job to walk you through the process and help you to understand all of these things and all of these terms. It's not as complicated as it may sound, but it's just setting up everything and going through the process. Understanding the process. Start with that checklist. Start with getting a full understanding. Study this website. You know, study contracting. The SBA has a lot of videos on their site that talks about contracting. Having your infrastructure, go back to what I said earlier. I've been working with 8A firms, helping them get certified, you know, a long time ago, but it comes government contracting. It's important to have your house in order. Everything from your safety manuals, your safety plan, to your human resource management system, so on and so forth, quality assurance plans, quality control plans, and the list kind of goes on. But, and don't let that, you know, stop you from pursuing. But what I'm saying is, let's do a full assessment so that you're prepared before you go out and put yourself out there in SAM's database. Because the minute you do that, there may be a contracting officer looking for that product or service, right? And they come across your name, your firm name, and you have a Gmail, right? Or you are not ready to do business. Contracting officers, that, you know, they, and I don't want to go all the way into government contracting, because we're going to do a series of government contracting to kind of help you, you know, get prepared for government contracting. But they are comfortable with doing business with who they do business with. So you're the new kid on the block if you're new to government contracting. So you really want to make sure that everything is in order to minimize and reduce and make them real warm and fuzzy about doing business and taking a chance on your, you know, with your business. So I'm gonna stop that there. We can go back to some of the questions.
Okay, so beta.certified.sba.gov, this is their new website. I think it's really well done as far as user-friendly. So you can get the required document list, and this is only if you're going through SBA directly, by clicking the Prepare tab. And again, it's about really familiarizing yourself with the processes and the system. So it tells you right here all of the things you need to know, the checklist. It has that you can hyperlink and download it. It has the EDWSB, and it has it in HTML format here. So it shows you that you have to be actively registered in SAMS for award management, that you need to have your DUNS number. And I will tell you a tip on DUNS numbers: that you can get a free number or you can pay for a number. For most people just starting off in federal contracting, you don't need to pay for a number. Get that free number, make sure you tell them it's for federal government purposes, and it'll come out 7 to 10 days, much faster. So use that DUNS number, make sure the information matches as you got the previous tip, DUNS to SAMS, get your SAM. You don't need to pay a company to do it. It is free. It might take you a minute because it's different to be active versus having your entity registered. So you have to make sure your entity becomes active, not just your registration active. So make sure you're following those emails and steps. You do have to have it for this program, as in all federal contracting. And then you go through, and then it's important if you're using this beta site that and it's even important if you're not using beta, even third party, because ultimately at one point or another, SBA is going to touch it and look at it and compare the information themselves. So you're going to have to match up everything you claim everywhere, basically. So that's what you have to make sure of. But this is the documents. And if anybody needed resources, Angela, for the joint ventures, I can give you the specific regulation for that too later if you want to reach out, or whoever it was that needed it for the joint ventures. I can at least show you exactly what to read, and then you'll understand it. And I was going to tell you too, there is a compliance guide that SBA put out. It's really great because it's like real world questions and like how you would put it as a small business owner in the most common situations. And it's a really straightforward, plain English answer, and then it references the regulation on top of that so that you can go back and read the actual regulation. It's available on SBA's website, the sba.gov, or you can even grab it from our website on our certification page. It's hot linked there for you. But these are the checklists.
I just shared that link with the for the compliance guide.
Awesome. Do I have more questions?
Any more
The one thing
questions?
I want the ones who have not registered in SAM to please write down your MPN. The MPN came up when Charmaine was going down a list of things that you need. Your MPN is your digital signature. You cannot get into certified without your MPN. So make sure you keep that handy when you write it down. It's a 4 to 6 digit. You're gonna need it to finish your SAM and you're gonna need it to get into certified. So make sure you keep that handy.
Yes. And Charmaine mentioned something earlier about consistency with all of your information across the board. I've seen companies who registered a different name. They might have left out a comma or a period or part of their business name. Make sure that your name is consistent from your registrations, all of your registrations, your EIN number, how you register in SAMs, and so on and so forth, because it's just make sure it's consistent, or you have to go back and it'll delay the process of, especially with some of the other certification programs as well.
Someone have a question to ask, is there someone who can assist you with learning how to bid on federal contracts? Sherry is gonna kill me. But we have Sherry Pittenger here in South Carolina out of Greenville. She used to be a contracting officer. And if you, right now, we are all still, most of us are still working from home. I do both home and office. Sherry, if you reach out to the Greenville office, Sherry Pittenger can assist you. I can't remember if the person's still in Charleston or not.
She's not. Linda Blanton. She's no longer there.
Yeah, she did retire last year.
But Scott Bellows, from what I know, is still with the SBDC as well. And we can help at the I can help, at the WBC as well. Understand the basics of proposal development and all of that. And we're going to start with the solicitation. So there's a process. There's a process to understanding what the government is willing to pay. And
we're currently still on a CR until the 11th of December. So we have not gotten any funding for what we call 7J training. And during 7J training, we have what is a Ruffins Consulting that does our proposal writing class. Yep. So if we get funding for that for FY21, those classes will also be offered. And we will partner with the WBC because we typically do it there.
And I'll add the City of Columbia as well. If anyone's interested in doing business with the City of Columbia, they can contact our office and we can help them through that process, whether it be professional services or construction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I don't see any more questions popping up. Yeah, and SCORE is available. Sheila Dawkins with our Midlands. She's on the line, I believe.
I'm here.
Okay, there she is.
Yes.
She can share a little bit about the what she does there at the Midlands as a chair of the Midlands SCORE chapter.
So I'm the newly official chair for SCORE, and we are really trying to do some really great things. We're working with new businesses and launching new businesses, but we also want to take an active role in helping businesses move forward other than just from the beginning. So we're here to help you, especially with your business plans, your cash flow statements, your income statements, and the beginning of the process, because prior to you going and reaching out to the government, you want to make sure that you have all of those pieces in place first, know where your money is coming from, know that you can eat prior to getting that government contract. All of those things are important first. So I think most people, they think about government contracts as the albeit, but you need to start from ground one. And if you have a solid beginning, when you move forward, then you move forward successfully.
Thank you so much, Sheila. And that is one of the partners in our circle, the SCORE chapter here, as well as the SBDC. And in mid next month, so stay tuned, we're going to have the workshop that we're gonna have a workshop mid-November that will start talking about the money part of it, as I told you earlier. So that will be done with Sheila. And we're excited about that. You know, we're serious about making sure that you're positioned and ready to do business, whether it's with the city, county, state, federal, or private industry. So we thank you with that. We thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Charmaine, for sharing all of that gold, that all of your knowledge, all of those gold nuggets. Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you so much, Aisha, with the City of Columbia. Yeah, get ready, you all. We're getting ready, and we're here to help you get ready. Thank you all again.
Hold on a second, Cheryl. Sylvia has a question. Are they announced? As they are announced, what are you referring to, Sylvia? You asking as they are announced? What are you talking about?
If there was a way to make sure that we would be made aware of these meetings as they're coming up.
Oh, absolutely. We will have them posted on our website. I think you all were sent to our www.wbc.org website and through our e-center, but you are in our database now as a contact because you registered for this one. And so we will share any upcoming workshops with you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
One other question that was asked is, will the presentations, the actual PowerPoint slides, be available?
Yes, we will distribute them to all the attendees from today. All right. If that is all, ladies, and I won't say ladies and gentlemen because I did see a gentleman on here. Thank you all so much for taking the time out, joining us today. I hope you receive some good knowledge and things that you can take away. We're here. We're here to help you through this process. So just know that you're not in it alone. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
All
Thanks,
right,
everyone.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. This was great.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
You were awesome.